Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because, wow, we are about to unravel one of cinema's most famously complex and debated narratives. I mean, if you've ever watched David Lynch's masterpiece, scratch your head as the credits rolled and thought, what did I just watch? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to use a really clear, structured approach to map out exactly what happens. And honestly, more importantly, what it all actually means. We're going to decode the dream, confront the reality, and connect all those bizarre floating puzzle pieces. So, let's get into it.
To really understand this story, we have to look closely at how it begins. It asks a pretty fundamental question right out of the gate. What happens when a Hollywood dream becomes a waking nightmare? The film opens with these incredibly bright, nostalgic images of couples dancing the jitterbug. It feels innocent, like this golden age fantasy. But almost immediately, that bright applause is cut off by a dark, descending point-of-view shot just sinking into a pillow. This brilliant contrast perfectly sets up the duality of the entire story. We're literally entering a world of sleep, and let me tell you, what follows is going to be a wild ride.
Welcome to Los Angeles.
Our inciting incidents happen super fast. Picture this. In the dead of night, on the winding roads of Mulholland Drive, a beautiful brunette woman narrowly escapes being murdered by her chauffeur when out of nowhere a sudden car crash wipes out everyone else. Left with complete amnesia, she wanders down into Los Angeles and sneaks into a vacant apartment. Then, the very next morning, we meet our protagonist, Betty Elms. Betty is this bright-eyed, endlessly optimistic, aspiring actress fresh off the plane from Deep River, Ontario. She discovers the amnesiac woman hiding in her aunt's apartment. The brunette spots an old movie poster and just adopts the name Rita. Instantly, Betty's starry-eyed enthusiasm kicks in and the two team up to figure out who Rita really is.
Okay, let's dive into this, because as they search Rita's purse, they find three massive clues that really anchor our mystery. First, there's a mysterious, almost futuristic-looking blue key. Second, a huge bundle of cash, which obviously suggests Rita was involved in something either very dangerous or very lucrative. And finally, Rita suddenly remembers just a single name, Diane Selwyn. This name basically becomes their North Star as they play amateur detectives all across Los Angeles.
Moving on to Part 2, Clues and Nightmares. Now, seemingly completely disconnected from our main duo, we get these three wild nightmares unfolding. A man named Dan tells a friend about a terrifying dream he had about this monstrous, filthy figure lurking behind a local diner. And get this, when they go to check, the monster is actually there, and Dan literally drops dead of shock. Then we have a hotshot Hollywood director, Adam Kesher. He's being violently intimidated by mobsters to cast a specific actress named Camilla Rhodes in his new film. Adam loses his movie set, his wife cheats on him, his bank accounts are frozen, and a mysterious cowboy tells him he has to obey. Meanwhile, a hitman named Joe Messing completely botches an assassination, accidentally taking out multiple bystanders in this deeply, darkly comedic sequence. Keep these events in the back of your mind, all right? Because they mean everything later on.
Meanwhile, back in Betty's world, she is living the absolute ultimate Hollywood fantasy. She goes to an audition and just crushes it. I mean, her performance is magnetic. She is immediately whisked away to a soundstage where she locks eyes with our newly disgraced director, Adam Kesher. There's this instant, intense chemistry between them. But Betty is so devoted to her new friend Rita that she actually turns her back on this golden opportunity and rushes off to continue their investigation. She's basically the perfect friend and the perfect rising star.
So, their investigation finally leads them to the apartment of that name Rita remembered, Diane Selwyn. But guys, the fantasy abruptly turns to pure horror. They break into the apartment and discover a woman's decomposing corpse just rotting in the bed. This is a massive escalation. The tension completely skyrockets. Rita is so terrified she actually tries to cut off her own hair to hide her identity, but Betty gently stops her. Instead, she disguises Rita in a bright blonde wig, which makes her look eerily like Betty herself.
And that brings us to Part 3. The illusion shatters.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this seemingly random nighttime sequence. Rita wakes up in this weird trance, just chanting, "Silencio, no hay banda." Silence, there is no band. She insists they go to this bizarre late-night theater called Club Silencio. And the MC at the club repeatedly tells the audience that everything they are hearing is an illusion. It's a recording. There's no live band. Nothing is real.
At the club, you can really see how this builds to a breaking point. Singer Rebecca Del Rio performs this gut-wrenching Spanish version of Roy Orbison's Crying. She collapses on stage, but her voice just keeps singing perfectly. The illusion is exposed, and in that moment of profound sadness, Betty suddenly finds a mysterious blue box in her purse, a box that perfectly matches Rita's blue key.
They rush home. Rita retrieves the key, unlocks the box, and the bottom just drops out. Betty vanishes into thin air. Rita opens the box, and she vanishes too. The entire world we've been watching for over an hour simply ceases to exist.
Welcome to Part 4, The Real Diane Selwyn.
A woman wakes up. She looks exactly like our bubbly, optimistic Betty. But her name isn't Betty. It's Diane Selwyn, and she's waking up in the exact same messy, depressing bedroom where Betty and Rita previously found that rotting corpse. Diane is a deeply depressed, struggling, failed actress. The entire first half of the story we just watched? Yeah, it was a dream. Betty never existed. Betty was merely a projection of Diane, this idealized, innocent version of herself, dreaming the life she desperately wished she had.
As Diane drags herself through her grim morning, we start getting flashbacks to her real life. She was deeply in love with a woman named Camilla Rhodes, a wildly successful, manipulative femme fatale who looks exactly like Rita. But Camilla isn't a helpless amnesia. In reality, Camilla holds all the power. We see this painful timeline unfold. Camilla initiates a really volatile breakup. Camilla unfairly gets the lead movie role Diane desperately wanted. And then the ultimate humiliation. At a dinner party, Camilla literally forces Diane to watch as she announces her sudden engagement to the arrogant director Adam Kesher.
Driven utterly mad by the jealousy, the betrayal, and the heartbreak, Diane does the unthinkable. She goes to that local diner and hires Joe, the exact same hitman we met in the dream, to assassinate the woman she loves, Camilla. Joe tells Diane that when the job is done, she'll find a blue key waiting for her. And honestly, the ultimate tragedy here is that Diane's own actions sealed her fate. She ordered the hit and created her own waking nightmare.
Now let's unpack all of this in our final section, decoding the nightmare.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating about this is how we can take the grim reality we just learned and map it directly back onto that beautiful, bizarre dream from the first half. Look at how Diane's subconscious completely rewrote her own identity. In reality, Diane is a failure who committed a terrible, irreversible crime. But in her sleep, her mind desperately needed an escape. So it invented Dream Betty, a brilliant, innocent girl fresh from Deep River who charms everyone she meets and could never, ever hurt a fly. Diane basically retreated into this persona just to hide from her immense guilt.
And she did the exact same thing to the woman who broke her heart. In reality, Camilla was successful, cruel, and held all the cards. She effectively ruined Diane's life. But in the dream, Diane's subconscious completely neutralized her. It turned the powerful Camilla into Rita, a vulnerable, helpless amnesiac who relies entirely on Betty for her survival. In the dream, Diane finally got to be the hero and the savior to the woman she actually murdered.
And if you break it down, it brilliantly illustrates how every single bizarre side plot was just a distorted reflection of Diane's trauma. In the dream, the hitman is this incompetent buffoon who messes up his job. Why? Because Diane's subconscious desperately wishes he had botched the hit on Camilla. The unidentified corpse they find in the dream, that's Diane's brain trying to warn her of her own ultimate fate. And those scary mobsters forcing the director to cast Camilla, that was just Diane's ego protecting itself. I mean, she couldn't accept that she lost the role because she wasn't good enough. She literally had to invent a conspiracy of mobsters to explain why Camilla won. And then, of course, we have the most vital symbol of all, the blue box and the blue key. In reality, the blue key was the physical proof that Camilla was dead. Diane's dreaming mind tried to suppress it, turning the key into a magical puzzle piece and creating a blue box to contain it. But the box really represents a threshold. Opening it was the exact moment Diane's guilt became just too heavy to repress. It completely shattered the fantasy and forced her to wake up to her tragic, inescapable reality.
Which brings us to the terrifying climax. Back in reality, the hit is done. The blue key is sitting right there on Diane's table. We see the monstrous homeless figure from the dream, representing Diane's raw, uncontainable guilt, playing with the blue box. Suddenly, a tiny elderly couple creeps under Diane's door. Now these were the sweet old people Betty met on her flight to LA, representing the crushed innocence and high hopes Diane brought with her from Deep River. But now, they are horrifying manifestations of her guilt, just terrorizing her. Driven to absolute madness, Diane flees to her bedroom and takes her own life. She dies in the exact same position as the rotting corpse from her own dream.
But before it all fades to black, the film leaves us with one final, truly haunting image. As the room fills with smoke, we see the glowing, happy faces of Betty and Rita, just smiling at each other, as the blue-haired woman whispers, "Silencio." Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to ponder. Did Diane's death simply end the nightmare?
Or was taking her own life the only way she could permanently return to her beautiful, impossible Hollywood dream? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating puzzle with me today. I really hope this completely changes how you view this incredible story. Keep decoding, and I'll see you next time.